Adrenaline Peak at Oaks Amusement Park just south of Portland, Oregon is a short but sweet and intense roller coaster, and is one of my favorite rides of all time. As well as, in my opinion, it is Oregon's best roller coaster. And in this video, I will be reviewing this fantastic ride. In September of 2017, Oaks Park closed their Pinfari looping cyclone coaster, known as Looping Thunder, to make way for a new ride. Oaks would then announce a brand new steel coaster, which would be the fastest, steepest, and feature the most inversions in Oregon, with 3. Oaks would then work with Gerstlauer Amusement Rides, and would purchase their Eurofighter 320 model. There is currently only one other 320 model, which this coaster would be a clone of, and it's Hydrus at Casino Pier in New Jersey. There would be a naming contest for this new coaster, and after a few months later, the name would be confirmed to be Adrenaline Peak, as we all know. Adrenaline Peak would open the very next year at the start of the 2018 season for Oaks Park, and the ride was praised for being a perfect fit for the park. Adrenaline Peak reaches heights up to 72 feet and has a max speed of 45 miles an hour, and has a record of the steepest drop in the West Coast, being 97 degrees, which is a beyond vertical drop. This record beats hang time at Knott's Berry Farm in Buena Park, California by 1 degree. Adrenaline Peak was purchased with 3 trains, each with 2 rows which seats 4 across, making each train capable of seating 8 riders. These trains also are fitted with lap bars. For a much larger park with much more people wanting to ride, the capacity for Adrenaline Peak would not be acceptable, as according to Gerstlauer, it is only capable of operating with around 500 riders per hour. But since Oaks Park is somewhat a small park, with not nearly as much people when compared to a much larger park, the line is never that long, with the longest wait I've ever seen around 20 minutes or less. Considering how much it rains in Oregon, you can expect a shorter wait when it's raining, as Adrenaline Peak still operates in somewhat light rain. You can see Adrenaline Peak from the parking lot and see its bright pink track and blue supports. I really dig this color scheme, and it is probably one of the best looking roller coasters, as it features a really neat lighting package for its track from KCL, and it looks really spectacular at night. When you enter the queue line for Adrenaline Peak, it is a simple fenced off pathway leading to the ride station. You can get some really good views of the ride since the queue goes inside the ride area. When walking through the queue, you even get to pass under part of the brake run for Adrenaline Peak, which I think is a really cool aspect when you're waiting in line. There isn't really a theme to Adrenaline Peak other than the ride itself, and I wouldn't really expect it to, considering how small it is. Once you're near the end of the queue, you walk up some stairs into Adrenaline Peak Station. You then board into one of its 8 passenger trains, and before dispatching, the ride operators make it really clear with them giving a spiel about not having your hands up when riding. I don't really understand why they don't want you to ride with your hands up, other than perhaps some clearance issues like with supports or something. But once they're done letting riders know, you then dispatch out of the station. You make a sharp left turn and then climb the ride's 90-degree straight up chain lift hill. The lift is quite short considering it's only 72 feet tall, and it takes around 13 seconds to make it to the top. When you're at the top, you get a nice view of downtown Portland, especially when you look to your right. After cresting the peak, you drop and get a good dose of ejector airtime as you're dropping at a 97-degree angle. Once at the bottom of the drop, you get some very strong positive G forces as you're pushed down into your seat. You then experience the ride's large loop, which is also very forceful since the loop is quite circular, unlike the common teardrop-shaped loops, like what's on many other roller coasters. And well, due to their shape, they're not very forceful. Even though this loop gives strong positive G-forces, you still get some mild hang time at the top of it. After the loop, you enter a cutback over bank-like element that acts like a U-turn to direct the train in the opposite direction. There is, however, some debate on whether this cutback is an inversion or not. I personally count it as an inversion since you bank past 45 degrees, but it really just comes down to your own opinion here. You travel into a bank curve where you enter a heartline roll that produces some really good hang time. Now this is my own hot take, but I actually prefer this heartline roll than, dare I say, Velocicoasters. Please be respectful in the comments. Thank you. This Heartline roll also delivers a somewhat unexpected head hitter type effect from the supports holding up the track here. This might be the reason why they ask you to keep your hands down before dispatching, even though it would be really difficult to hit these supports with your hands. It could be possible though. You then take one last turn, that then goes into a small airtime hill right into the brakes. This hill packs a quick pop of airtime and is an enjoyable finale which ends at 1,050 feet of track length for Adrenaline Peak. After the brakes, you make another left turn into the station where you can disembark. The ride experience doesn't really seem to matter depending on where you sit on the train, but you still get some more airtime in the back when dropping. So what are my thoughts on Adrenaline Peak at Oaks Amusement Park? Well, considering how much track and the amount of elements they were able to pack into such a small plot, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. As much as I love how they were able to fit nearly 1,000 feet of track into this and have 3 inversions, I just wish I had a little bit more. I understand that Oaks is a small park and Adrenaline Peak is probably the most they could afford with a reported cost of around $5 million, but for what it is, it's a very noteworthy coaster, especially for a state like Oregon, where there really isn't much in terms of amusement parks and roller coasters. However, I still believe this is easily Oregon's best roller coaster. It's forceful and intense, yet short and sweet. My second option would be Ice Mountain Bobsled at Enchanted Forest near Salem. And as much as I love both of these coasters, I'm gonna have to give it to Adrenaline Peak for being the best in Oregon. As someone who has pretty much lived in Oregon their whole life, this was pretty much all I had for amusement parks. Oaks was my home park, and even though it wasn't much, I still greatly value this coaster. I've also heard that there are some rumors with Oaks possibly getting an RMC Wilderness coaster sometime in the future. So we'll have to see if that will ever happen. One last thing I'd like to add is that I find it astonishing that Adrenaline Peak only took 11 days to erect when it was being built. Most extreme roller coasters take much longer than that to complete, but it only took that amount of time to finish it. Adrenaline Peak holds the record for the least amount of time spent constructing a thrill coaster in the world, and that is just amazing. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this shorter type video. I expect to create longer videos in the future, but I hope this will do for now. If you found this video enjoyable, then please do me a favor by giving this review a like, and if you want to see more content from me, then consider subscribing. If you have any thoughts or anything you'd like to add, then you can comment on this video, as I really appreciate reading your comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.